I'm Kira Phillips. Our top story this hour, deja vu at the defense table. Former President Trump back in court for the fourth day of witness testimony, with tabloid exec David Pecker back on the stand now for redirect from the prosecution. Trump's lawyers attempting to poke holes in the former National Enquirer publisher's testimony about the dark art of catch and kill. During cross-examination, well, prosecutors say he was part of that scheme to bury those stories about alleged affairs with porn star Stormy Daniels and Playboy model Karen McDougal, all in an effort to keep voters in the dark about those affairs. Today's proceedings coming just 24 hours after a historic day at the Supreme Court. Our nation's top justices now weighing Trump's unprecedented claim of absolute presidential immunity. That's all centered around his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Leading us off, our investigative reporter, Olivia Rubin. She's outside court, along with attorney and director at Fordham Law School's Voting Rights and Democracy Project, Jerry Goldfeder. So, Olivia, a lot of back and forth over David Pecker and his actions on behalf of Donald Trump and whether they were nothing more than standing operating procedure in the tabloid industry.
Yeah, attorney for the prosecutors here trying to walk back some of the ground that Donald Trump's attorneys picked up on cross-examination, where they did sort of paint this as standard operating procedure for a tabloid in a certain way. They tried to distance it from the election, saying this was something that happened for decades and had nothing to do with the election, that this was something David Pecker had done with other celebrities and politicians such as Rahm Emanuel and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that this is something that he would have done regardless of the election or his meeting with Donald Trump, that these were stories he would have published anyway or stories he may not have published anyway. So prosecutors trying to rein David Pecker back in, and they said to him very clearly on recross, so you said you had many other NDAs. David Pecker said that's correct, and they looked at him clearly and said, how many of those involved you personally, the CEO of AMI, coordinating with a presidential candidate for a story related to the election? He said that was the only one. So trying to pour some cold water on that theory that this was standard, and trying to reiterate to the jurors that an $130,000 payment around an election was anything but standard procedure.
So, Jerry, Trump's lawyers attempted to distance him from the catch and kill scheme by suggesting that David Pecker and Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen may have been freelancing. What did you make of that strategy?
Well, I don't think they touched David Pecker. I don't think they impeached him. I think the story that David Pecker told is consistent with what Michael Cohen has said publicly and what he'll testify to. Pecker was involved with this catch and kill scheme directly with Donald Trump. And it was clear from Pecker's testimony that Trump wanted this done, and he wanted this done in order to interfere with the election. And I don't think the defense was able to impeach him on that at all. It's up to the jury to decide if the story holds and if they believe it. But I think that the testimony that Pecker gave was pretty powerful.
So what's Trump been like, Olivia? What was he like when one of his longtime allies, with whom he hasn't spoken to in quite a while, was up there, and, you know, the jury reacting to Trump? Kind of give us some color.
He's been very gripped by the testimony. Remember, David Pecker has been on the stand for days now, so we've seen sort of a different dynamic between the two of them. When David Pecker first took the stand, he actually had a huge smile on his face and proceeded to speak glowingly about his relationship with Donald Trump, something that Trump appeared to enjoy and listen to carefully. When I was in the courtroom yesterday morning, David Pecker could also be seen leaving during a break and smiling at Trump and his attorneys, smiling at some of the agents and seated in the first row on his way out. But Donald Trump has appeared quite gripped by his testimony. Just today, when Trump's own attorney had his own crack at David Pecker, he sort of shifted his chair and was looking right at David Pecker as they were doing their back and forth, and his attorney was trying to land some punches on David Pecker. Not that many of them landed, but he was certainly paying attention. And then you have the jurors who have also appeared gripped by this testimony. They are taking notes. Yesterday, they were sort of looking up at Pecker, looking down at their notepads, looking back at Joshua Steinglass, and really keeping up with this sort of ping pong back and forth going on in the courtroom.
All right, Olivia, Jerry, thank you. We'll continue to touch base throughout the day till court wraps up.